The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 12 different species gathered around the crystalline conference table. Ambassador Zethkar of the Altarian Federation tapped his elongated fingers against the surface, creating a rhythmic pattern that echoed through the vast hall. The air recyclers hummed overhead, struggling to accommodate the diverse atmospheric requirements of the assembled beings. The situation has become critical, announced High Counselor Vexani, her blue-scaled head swiveling to address each delegate. The Corvin Horde has destroyed 3 more systems in the Outer Rim. Their bioships consume everything in their path, leaving nothing but barren rock and cosmic dust. A collective shudder ran through the assembly. The Corvin Horde had emerged from the dark void between galaxies 6 months ago, bringing with them technology that defied understanding and a hunger that seemed infinite. Their vessels, grown rather than built, could reproduce by consuming raw matter from planets and asteroids. Each victory made them stronger, their fleet growing exponentially. Our combined fleets have failed repeatedly, continued Vexani, her voice heavy with defeat. The Venari war forms, bred for combat over millennia, lasted mere hours against their assault. The Christek energy weapons, capable of cracking moons, barely scratched their organic hulls. Even the Void Hunters, who have never known defeat in space combat, retreated after losing half their ships. Ambassador Kretal of the Insectoid Collective clicked his mandibles in agitation. There must be something we haven't tried. Some strategy, some weapon, some ally we have overlooked. Actually, interjected Dr. Yilrin, the Council's chief xenobiologist, there might be. I've been studying the combat records of various species, looking for patterns the Corvins might not anticipate. She activated a holographic display showing tactical data from dozens of battles. Most of our civilizations developed in relatively peaceful environments. We fight with honor, follow established protocols, use predictable strategies. What are you suggesting? Asked Zethkar, leaning forward with interest. I'm suggesting we need warriors from a death world. A species that evolved not just to survive, but to dominate in an environment so hostile that every day is a battle for existence. The kind of beings who would see our impossible situations as Tuesday afternoon. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Deathworlders were legendary in galactic society, spoken of in hushed tones, and usually avoided. These were species that had crawled out of planetary hellscapes where everything tried to kill them, developing combat instincts and survival mechanisms that seemed almost supernatural to more civilized races. Do we even know of such a species that has achieved space travel? Asked Vexani. Dr. Yilrin's tentacles writhed with excitement. Oh yes. In fact, I found the perfect candidates. There's a Class 12 death world in the Sol system, 3rd planet from their star. The dominant species calls their world Earth, and themselves humans. Their planet is so dangerous that they actually created sports and entertainment based on simulating mortal combat. She brought up images of Earth, and several delegates recoiled in horror. Massive storms that could level cities, tectonic plates that shifted without warning, weather patterns that swung from freezing to scorching in a matter of days. Oceans filled with creatures that could swallow starships whole, and land masses crawling with predators that had evolved specifically to hunt other predators. Look at their physiology, Dr. Yilrin continued, displaying anatomical charts. They have redundant organ systems, bones that can heal themselves, and muscle fibers that can operate at 100% efficiency while damaged. Their brains release combat drugs naturally, allowing them to fight through injuries that would incapacitate any of our species. But have they developed space travel? Pressed Zethkar. What good are ground combatants against the Corvin bioships? That's the beautiful part, Dr. Yilrin replied, her excitement growing. They've not only achieved space travel, they've done it the hard way. No gravity manipulation, no exotic matter drives. They literally strapped themselves to controlled explosions and launched themselves into the void. Their military doctrine includes something they call combined arms warfare, the integration of ground, air, space, and naval forces. She displayed footage of human military exercises, and the assembled delegates watched in fascination and horror as humans demonstrated tactics that seemed suicidally aggressive. Soldiers advancing under fire, spacecraft ramming enemy vessels, pilots ejecting from damaged fighters only to continue fighting on foot. They have a saying, Dr. Yilrin noted, reading from her cultural files. Violence is not the answer. Violence is the question, and the answer is yes. They've turned warfare into an art form. High Counselor Vexani stood slowly, her decision weighing heavily upon her. Very well. Dr. Yilrin, you will lead a diplomatic mission to this Earth. We need warriors. And if these humans are truly as formidable as you suggest, perhaps they can succeed where we have failed. There's one more thing, Dr. Yilrin added, her voice dropping. According to my research, humans have never lost a war against an alien species. They've never even fought one. We would be asking them to face their first extraterrestrial enemy. All the better, rumbled Zethkar. Perhaps fresh eyes and untested strategies are exactly what we need. As the council session ended and delegates began filing out, none of them noticed the small bioconstruct that had been listening from within the chamber's ventilation system. The Corvin spy dissolved itself into component molecules, its final transmission already racing through subspace toward the advancing horde. The message was simple. New species identified. Deathworld origin. Recommend immediate preemptive strike. In the darkness between stars, something vast and hungry began to change course, setting its sights on a small blue world that had just become the galaxy's last hope. The irony was not lost on the Corvin overmind. They who had evolved to consume everything in their path were about to meet a species that had evolved to survive everything in theirs. Earth's warriors were being summoned to save the galaxy, but they had no idea that the galaxy's greatest threat had already decided to come to them first. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not just the fate of the Galactic Council, but the future of all intelligent life in the cosmos. As Dr. Yilrin prepared her ship for the journey to Earth, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to unleash something that even the desperate Council might not be prepared for. But with the Corvin horde advancing and conventional tactics failing, they had run out of civilized options. It was time to see what the Deathworlders could do. Admiral Sarah Chun was reviewing casualty reports from the latest training exercise when her aide burst through the door of her office aboard the Orbital Defense Platform Guardian Station. Lieutenant Morrison's face was pale, and he was breathing hard as if he'd run the entire length of the station. Admiral, we have a situation. A really big situation. Chun looked up from her holographic displays, noting the young officer's obvious distress. Define really big, Lieutenant. Are we talking budget cuts or alien invasion? Alien contact, Mom. First contact. Real, honest-to-God aliens. They're requesting permission to approach Earth orbit. Admiral Chun felt the world shift beneath her feet. Every military officer had trained for this scenario, but somehow it had always seemed theoretical. She activated her command interface, pulling up the sensor data from the outer system monitoring stations. Show me what we're dealing with. The main screen flickered to life, displaying an image that made Chen's blood run cold. The alien vessel was massive, easily 3 times the size of their largest battlecruiser, but it wasn't built like any human ship. Instead of metal and composites, it appeared to be grown with organic curves and what looked like breathing ports along its hull. Jesus Christ, you shame what it. It looks alive. That's what our xenobiology team thinks too, Admiral. But it's broadcasting on standard diplomatic frequencies, and the translation matrix is working overtime to decode their language. Put me through to General Martinez at CENTCOM and Director Walsh at the Global Defense Initiative. We're going to need all hands on deck for this one. As Chun established the emergency conference, she couldn't help but think about the irony. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, building defense networks, training elite forces, developing contingency plans. Yet now that it was happening, she felt completely unprepared. Admiral Chun, came the gruff voice of General Martinez through the comm. I assume you've seen our visitors? Hard to miss them, General. What's the initial assessment from Strategic Command? Unknown capabilities, unknown intentions, and unknown technology that makes our best ships look like rowboats, Martinez replied grimly. The Joint Chiefs are recommending we scramble every available unit and prepare for the worst. Belay that order, interrupted Director Walsh, the civilian head of the Global Defense Initiative. We have confirmation that this is a diplomatic mission. The aliens are requesting a face-to-face meeting to discuss what they're calling a matter of galactic security. Chen frowned. Galactic security? That implies there are other threats out there. That's exactly what it implies, Walsh confirmed. According to the preliminary translation, they're representatives of something called the Galactic Council, and they need our help with a military crisis. They need our help? Chen laughed harshly. We've barely mastered our own solar system, and they want us to help with galactic problems? The alien ship continued its approach, maintaining a respectful distance from Earth's defensive perimeter, but close enough to demonstrate the vast technological gap between their civilizations. Chen watched the sensor readings with growing amazement and concern. The vessel's energy signatures were off the charts, and their propulsion system seemed to bend the laws of physics as she understood them. Incoming transmission, announced Lieutenant Morrison. They're requesting permission to send a shuttle to Guardian Station for the diplomatic meeting. Chen made her decision. Grant permission, but keep all weapons systems online and ready. And give me Colonel Hayes and her special operations team. If this goes sideways, I want our best people ready to respond. 2 hours later, Chen found herself in the station's main conference room, surrounded by Earth's most elite military officers and scientists. The atmosphere was tense, with everyone acutely aware that they were about to make history. Through the room's viewports, they could see the alien shuttle approaching, its biomechanical design both beautiful and unsettling. The shuttle docked with surprising precision, and Chen had to admire the skill of whoever was piloting it. The airlock cycled, and after several tense minutes, the first extraterrestrial beings to visit Earth stepped into human space. Dr. Yilrin was unlike anything they had expected. Her tentacled form moved with surprising grace, and her large, multifaceted eyes seemed to take in every detail of the room simultaneously. Behind her came 2 other beings that looked like they belonged in a fever dream, but their body language suggested they were bodyguards or military escorts. Greetings, representatives of Earth. Dr. Yilrin spoke through a translation device that made her voice sound oddly musical. I am Dr. Yilrin of the Galactic Council's Xenobiology Division. I bring urgent news from the stars. Admiral Chen stepped forward, fighting the urge to show any sign of weakness or fear. Welcome to Guardian Station. I'm Admiral Sarah Chen, representing Earth's Global Defense Initiative. You mentioned a matter of galactic security. Indeed, Dr. Yilrin replied, activating a holographic projector that filled the center of the room with a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red markers indicated destroyed systems, and the pattern was clearly moving in a specific direction. This is the Corvin Horde, an extragalactic species that consumes entire worlds. They have destroyed 47 star systems in the past year, and our combined fleets have proven inadequate to stop them. Colonel Hayes, Earth's most decorated Special Forces officer, leaned forward. What does this have to do with us? We're barely a Type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Dr. Yilrin's tentacles writhed in what appeared to be excitement. That is precisely why we need you. The Galactic Council's military forces come from civilized worlds, peaceful planets where conflict has been largely eliminated through technology and diplomacy. We fight with honor, follow established rules of engagement, and use predictable strategies. And that's a problem because, prompted Admiral Chen, because the Corvins don't follow rules. They are pure predators, evolve in the void between galaxies where only the most vicious survive. Our honorable warfare is useless against beings that see mercy as weakness and view every tactical doctrine as something to be exploited. The holographic display shifted, showing footage from battles between Council forces and the Corvin bioships. The humans watched in stunned silence as advanced alien warships were systematically torn apart by vessels that seemed to fight like living predators rather than military constructs. We need warriors from a death world, Dr. Yilrin continued. Beings who have evolved in an environment so hostile that they think tactically rather than honorably, who can adapt to any situation, and who view impossible odds as merely another challenge to overcome. General Martinez spoke up from the comm system. You're talking about us. Your species is unique in the galaxy, Dr. Yilrin confirmed. Most civilizations develop on worlds where the greatest threat is weather or natural disasters. Earth is a Class 12 death world, where nearly everything is actively trying to kill you. Your evolution has produced natural warriors with tactical minds and survival instincts that surpass anything we've encountered. Admiral Chun studied the alien carefully. What exactly are you asking of us? We need you to join our military coalition and help us develop new strategies to defeat the Corvins. Your ships, your weapons, your warriors, but most importantly, your way of thinking about warfare. The room fell silent as the humans processed this request. They were being asked to leave their home system for the first time in history to fight in an interstellar war against an enemy they'd never seen, using technology they barely understood, alongside allies they'd just met. Colonel Hayes broke the silence. What's the timeline? How long do we have to prepare? Dr. Yilrin's expression grew grim. That is the other reason for urgency. Our intelligence suggests the Corvins have learned of our plan to recruit you. They are already diverting forces toward this system. They're coming here. Admiral Chun felt ice form in her veins. Yes, in approximately 6 of your weeks, the leading edge of their forces will reach Earth. If we're going to mount a defense, we must begin preparations immediately. The weight of the situation settled over the room like a lead blanket. Earth's first contact with alien life had also brought news of an incoming invasion by forces that had already proven capable of destroying entire civilizations. Admiral, Colonel Hayes said quietly, "It looks like we're going to get our first real test." Chin nodded grimly. "Give me the president on a secure channel. It's time to let the world know that we're no longer alone in the universe, and that we're about to find out if humanity deserves its reputation as a warrior species." Outside the viewport, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, unaware that it had just become the most important battleground in galactic history. The emergency session of the United Nations Security Council had been moved to the secure bunker beneath Geneva, and for the first time in the organization's history, every member nation was represented at the highest level. President Martinez of the Americas Union sat across from Chancellor Petrov of the Eurasian Federation, while Prime Minister Okafor of the African Coalition reviewed, translated documents that still seemed impossible to believe. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced Secretary General Kim, her voice barely steady. "6 hours ago, we received confirmation that we are not alone in the universe. Furthermore, we have been invited to join an interstellar war against a force that has already destroyed dozens of star systems." The chamber erupted in multiple languages as representatives struggled to process the magnitude of the situation. President Martinez stood, his military bearing evident even in civilian clothes. "Madam Secretary General, I've reviewed the tactical assessments from our orbital defense platforms. If these Corvin forces are even half as dangerous as described, we need to begin mobilization immediately." "Mobilization for what?" demanded Minister Chun of the Pacific Federation. "We're talking about space warfare against aliens using technology we can't even comprehend. Our most advanced fighters would be like paper airplanes against their bioships." Dr. Yilrin, who had been observing from a specially constructed environmental chamber, activated her translation matrix. "If I may address the assembly, your tactical limitations are precisely why we need you. You think differently than any species in the galaxy." Chancellor Petrov leaned forward, his weathered face skeptical. "Explain what you mean by thinking differently." "Your species is a concept you call asymmetric warfare," Dr. Yilrin explained. "The use of unconventional tactics to defeat a superior force. This is almost unknown in galactic civilization. Most species fight with similar strategies, using superior technology to overwhelm opponents. You fight with creativity, unpredictability, and what you call dirty tricks." Prime Minister Okafor smiled grimly. "You want us to teach the galaxy how to fight dirty. More than that, we want you to show us how to survive against impossible odds. Your military history is filled with examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through innovation and determination. The Battle of Thermopylae, Agincourt, Stalingrad, the Tet Offensive. You specialize in turning weakness into strength." Secretary General Kim brought up a holographic display showing Earth's current military assets. "Dr. Yilrin, even if we mobilize everything we have, we're talking about perhaps 2,000 combat-capable spacecraft, most of which are designed for planetary defense. How can that possibly make a difference against a force that has conquered dozens of star systems?" "Because you won't be fighting alone," Dr. Yilrin replied. The Galactic Council can provide you with advanced technology, weapons, and ships. What we cannot provide is the tactical mindset that your species possesses naturally. Admiral Chen's voice came through the secure communication link from Guardian Station. Madam Secretary General, I've been coordinating with our allies over the past several hours. They're offering to upgrade our ships with their technology and provide us with star charts and intelligence on Corvin capabilities. The question is whether we're willing to commit to this fight. President Martinez stood again, his decision already made. The way I see it, we don't have a choice. If these Corvins are coming to Earth anyway, we can either meet them here and watch our world burn, or we can take the fight to them with allies at our side. But the risk, protested Minister Chun. If we commit our forces to this galactic war and lose, Earth will be defenseless. Earth is already defenseless against this threat, Chancellor Petrov pointed out coldly. Our orbital platforms might stop asteroids and conventional invasion forces, but these bioships can apparently crack planets. Our only chance is to join this alliance and hope that human tactics can make a difference. The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. When faced with extinction, even the most cautious leaders recognized that desperate measures were necessary. The vote was unanimous. Earth would join the Galactic Council's war effort. 3 weeks later, the first combined human-alien task force assembled in Earth orbit. The sight was both magnificent and terrifying. Sleek council vessels with their organic curves and crystalline weapon arrays hung alongside retrofitted human ships that had been hastily upgraded with alien technology. The humans had insisted on maintaining their own command structure while integrating council advisors, creating a hybrid military organization unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Colonel Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. The vessel had been built around human naval traditions, but incorporated alien technology that made it faster and more powerful than anything Earth had ever produced. Around her, a mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together, slowly learning to coordinate despite vast differences in physiology and culture. Admiral Chun, this is Task Force Alpha, Vasquez reported. We are ready to begin our first joint operation. Understood, Colonel. Your target is the Corvin Advanced Scout fleet moving through the Rigel system. Intelligence suggests they're probing our defensive capabilities before the main force arrives. This is our chance to show both the Corvins and our allies what human tactics can accomplish. Dr. Yilrin, serving as the alien liaison aboard the Defiance, watched the human crew with fascination. Their preparation rituals were unlike anything she had observed. Instead of meditation or ceremonial purification, they checked and rechecked their equipment, shared stories and jokes to calm their nerves, and engaged in what they called trash talk about the enemy. Your species is remarkable, she told Vasquez. Most civilized races require extensive psychological preparation before combat. Your people seem to treat this as another day at the office. Vasquez grinned, checking her sidearm out of habit, despite the fact that personal weapons would be useless in space combat. Doc, my grandfather fought in 3 different wars, and my mother served in the asteroid mining conflicts. For humans, there's always another fight around the corner. We don't get psychological preparation because we never really stop being ready for violence. The task force dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Rigel system, and immediately the tactical situation became clear. 5 Corvin bioships were systematically consuming the outer planets, their organic hulls growing larger with each consumed asteroid. Council doctrine would have called for a frontal assault with maximum firepower, but Vasquez had other ideas. All ships, implement dispersal pattern 7, she ordered. We're going to use the asteroid field for cover and hit them from multiple angles. Make them think there are more of us than there actually are. Colonel, interrupted Commander Crix, the Altarian tactical officer, that strategy violates standard combat protocols. It could be seen as cowardly by the enemy. Good, Vasquez replied. I want them to underestimate us. Confusion is our greatest weapon right now. The human ships scattered throughout the asteroid field, using their smaller size and enhanced maneuverability to hide among the rocks. Meanwhile, the Council vessels took up positions that would normally be considered retreat positions, appearing to flee from the Corvin advance. The Corvin bioships took the bait, pursuing what they perceived as fleeing prey. They had encountered this scenario dozens of times before, and their tactics were predictable: overwhelming assault followed by consumption of the defeated enemy vessels. What they hadn't encountered was an enemy that used their predictability against them. All units, execute Maneuver Charlie, Vasquez ordered. Let's teach these things why Earth mammals are apex predators. The asteroids that the human ships have been hiding behind suddenly exploded outward, revealing that they had been hollowed out and packed with human explosives. The Corvin bioships, caught in the debris field, found their organic hulls pierced by high-velocity rock fragments. Before they could recover, the Council vessels that had appeared to be retreating suddenly reversed course, their energy weapons targeting the damaged areas that the humans had created. The coordinated assault was devastating, with human tactics creating opportunities that alien technology exploited with ruthless efficiency. First Corvin vessel is breaking apart, reported the tactical officer. Second vessel is attempting to withdraw. Negative on the withdrawal, Vasquez responded. Alpha Wing, execute the pincer movement. Don't let any of them escape to report our tactics to the main force. The battle lasted only 18 minutes, but it changed everything. For the first time since the Corvin invasion began, an entire enemy force had been completely destroyed without a single allied casualty. The implications rippled throughout both fleets within hours. Admiral Chun, Dr. Yilrin reported from the Defiance. The Galactic Council is requesting a full tactical analysis of this engagement. They want to understand how we achieved such a decisive victory. Chun smiled as she reviewed the battle footage. Tell them it's simple. They wanted Earth's warriors, but what they got were Earth hunters. And the Corvins just became prey. In the depths of space, the surviving Corvin forces detected the loss of their scout fleet. For the first time in their extragalactic campaign, they had encountered an enemy that fought not with honor or predetermined tactics, but with cunning and adaptability. The Overmind began revising its assessment of the threat these humans represented. Perhaps this small Deathworld species was more dangerous than anticipated. The Corvin Overmind floated in its biomechanical throne within the massive command vessel, processing the data streams from thousands of subordinate organisms across the fleet. For the first time in its existence, the ancient entity felt something approaching concern. The destruction of the scout fleet had been unexpected, but more troubling were the tactical innovations demonstrated by these humans. Around the Overmind, the bridge crew of specialized Corvin warriors maintained their stations with insectal efficiency. Each had been bred for a specific purpose: navigation, weapons control, bioship coordination, and intelligence analysis. Together, they formed a perfect military organism that had conquered dozens of star systems without significant resistance. Analysis complete, reported the intelligence specialist, its multifaceted eyes glowing with bioluminescent data streams. The enemy employed deception, misdirection, and improvised weapons. These tactics are not recorded in any known military database. The Overmind's massive form shifted, causing ripples through the ship's neural network. Show me the battle progression again. The holographic display recreated the Rigel engagement, highlighting the moments when human tactics had deviated from predicted responses. The Overmind watched with growing fascination as smaller enemy vessels used environmental factors as weapons, turning asteroids into improvised explosives and using natural cover in ways that no civilized species had ever attempted. These creatures fight like wild predators. Observe the tactical coordinator. They use cunning rather than overwhelming force. More than that, the Overmind replied, its mental voice resonating through every bioship in the fleet. They demonstrate adaptive intelligence. Each tactic was specifically designed to exploit our behavioral patterns. They studied us and prepared countermeasures. The navigation specialist's tentacles writhed with nervous energy. Overmind, should we alter our approach to the core systems? The main Galactic Council fleet will likely employ similar tactics. Negative, the Overmind decided after a moment of consideration. These humans represent a new factor, but they are still a minor species with limited resources. We will adapt our strategies to account for their unpredictability, but the overall campaign continues as planned. The massive fleet, stretching across light years of space, began to shift formation. Bioships that had been bred for straightforward assault were redistributed to provide better defensive coverage, while specialized hunter-killers were moved forward to deal with small, agile targets that might attempt unconventional attacks. Meanwhile, in the Sol system, Earth's military leadership was grappling with the implications of their first victory. The success at Rigel had provided valuable intelligence about Corvan capabilities, but it had also revealed the true scale of what they were facing. General Martinez stood before a three-dimensional tactical display in the Pentagon's deepest bunker, studying fleet movements that represented more destructive power than humanity had ever imagined. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "Look at the size of that thing." Admiral Chun, participating via secure hologram from Guardian Station, nodded grimly. "The main Corvan fleet makes their scout force look like a reconnaissance patrol. We're talking about thousands of bioships, some of them larger than our space stations." "What's our current strength assessment?" asked Colonel Hayes, who had been coordinating with Allied forces throughout the galaxy. "Thanks to the technology transfers from the Galactic Council, we now have approximately 500 combat-ready vessels," Chen reported. "The problem is training crews to use alien technology while maintaining our tactical advantages." Dr. Yilren, who had become an unofficial ambassador between the species, manipulated her own holographic interface to display comparative analyses. "The Galactic Council is mobilizing every available ship. We will have numerical superiority in terms of total vessels, but the Corvan bioships are significantly more powerful individually. Then, we don't fight them individually," General Martinez concluded. "We force them to split their attention, create multiple crisis points, and use our mobility advantage to hit them where they're weakest." The strategy session was interrupted by an urgent communication from the outer system monitoring stations. Lieutenant Morrison's face appeared on the main screen, his expression tense with barely controlled excitement and fear. "Generals, we've detected massive hyperspace signatures approaching the edge of the solar system. Multiple contacts, classification unknown, but consistent with Corvan bioships." Admiral Chun felt her blood turn to ice. "How many contacts, Lieutenant?" "Initial count shows at least 50 vessels, Admiral. They're maintaining formation approximately 1 light hour out, just beyond our sensor perimeter. 50 ships, Colonel Ifronet. That's smaller than the scout force we engaged at Rigel. This doesn't match the intelligence estimates for their main fleet." Dr. Yilren's tentacles writhed with agitation. "This is not consistent with Corvan behavior patterns. They typically commit overwhelming force to ensure rapid conquest. A force this size suggests either a probing attack, or what?" demanded General Martinez. "Or they're testing our defenses before the main assault. They want to understand how we fight before committing their primary forces." The realization hit them simultaneously. The Corvans had learned from the Rigel engagement just as much as the humans had. They were adapting their strategy, sending a manageable force to study human tactics without risking their main fleet. "Admiral Chun," Martinez ordered, "implement defensive posture gamma. All available ships to outer system patrol positions, but maintain concealment protocols. I want our response to look smaller than it actually is." "Understood, General. All Council liaison officers are reporting to their stations. Dr. Yilren will need updated intelligence on Corvan combat doctrine." As the human-led Alliance fleet moved into position, the true test began. The Corvan force was probing Earth's defenses not just to identify weaknesses, but to understand the thinking patterns of this new enemy. Every tactical decision would be analyzed, every response pattern recorded for the Overmind to study. Commander Vasquez, now aboard the upgraded UES Retribution, watched the Corvan formation through enhanced sensors that combined human engineering with alien technology. The bioships moved with organic fluidity that was both beautiful and terrifying, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to serve as communication. "Tactical assessment, Commander?" asked Dr. Zethic, the Altarian science officer who had volunteered for the human task force. "They're being careful," Vasquez replied, studying the enemy formation. "No aggressive positioning, no obvious attack vectors. They want to see what we do when threatened, but not actually attacked." "So what do we do?" Vasquez smiled with predatory satisfaction. "We give them exactly what they want to see, and then we teach them why that was a mistake. Communications, get me Admiral Chun. It's time to implement Operation Matador." The The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. The human fleet would appear to respond predictably to the Corvin probe, following what seemed like standard defensive protocols. But hidden within that predictable response would be layers of deception designed to make the Corvins overconfident about human capabilities. All ships begin Phase 1 positioning, Vasquez ordered. Remember, we want them to think they understand us. The real surprise comes later. As Earth's defenders moved into what appeared to be a conventional defensive formation, the Corvin probe force began its own deployment. Bioships spread out across the system's outer edge, their sensor arrays analyzing everything from ship configurations to communication patterns. Neither side was showing their full hand yet, but both were learning. The Corvins were discovering that humans followed recognizable tactical principles despite their unconventional methods. The humans were confirming that Corvin bioships, despite their organic appearance, operated according to predictable behavioral patterns. What neither side fully understood was that they were both setting elaborate traps for each other, and the outcome would depend not just on firepower or tactics, but on which species could better anticipate and counter their opponent's deceptions. In the depths of space between Earth and Mars, the first moves of the most important game of chess in human history were being played with starships as pieces and the fate of civilization as the stakes. The Deathworlders were about to discover if their reputation was deserved when facing an enemy that had evolved to be the perfect predator among the stars. The moment of truth arrived 18 hours later, when the Corvin probe force finally committed to what appeared to be a standard reconnaissance in force. Their bioships moved with calculated precision toward the inner system, expecting the human-led alliance to respond according to the defensive patterns they had observed. Commander Vasquez watched from the bridge of the UES Retribution as the enemy formation approached the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Everything was proceeding exactly as Operation Matador had predicted. The Corvins were following their established behavioral patterns, confident that they understood their new enemy. Corvin lead elements are entering the engagement zone, reported Lieutenant Kim from the tactical station. They're maintaining standard approach formation, consistent with their previous conquest patterns. Perfect, Vasquez replied, her voice calm despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. Dr. Zethic, are our council allies ready for Phase 2? The Altarian science officer's crystalline features flickered with bioluminescent confirmation. All council vessels report ready, Commander. They remain skeptical of your strategy, but they are committed to following human tactical leadership. Vasquez understood the skepticism. What she was about to attempt would be considered suicidal by galactic military standards. Instead of using their technological advantages to maintain safe combat distances, the human fleet was going to deliberately close to point-blank range with an enemy that specialized in devastating close-quarters combat. Admiral Chun, this is Retribution, requesting permission to execute Phase 2. Chen's voice crackled through the communications system from her command ship at the edge of the system. Permission granted, Commander. Show these things what Earth's children can do when cornered. The Corvin probe force, numbering 50 bioships of various sizes, had spread into their attack formation as they approached the asteroid belt. Their organic vessels pulsed with anticipation, weapon systems charging, and communication networks buzzing with tactical data. The Overmind's remote consciousness observed through thousands of sensory organs, analyzing every aspect of the developing engagement. What the Corvins didn't realize was that the asteroid belt had been transformed over the past 6 months into the most elaborate trap in human history. Hidden among the rocks were not just human ships, but entire weapons platforms that had been disguised as natural formations. Mining equipment had been converted into kinetic bombardment systems, and communication relays have been fitted with electromagnetic pulse generators. Corvin lead elements are now within optimal range, announced Lieutenant Morrison from the Fleet Coordination Center. All hidden assets report ready. Vasquez took a deep breath, knowing that the next few minutes would either validate human tactical doctrine or prove that Deathworld species were just as vulnerable as anyone else when facing a superior opponent. All units, execute Matador 1. Show them our cape, but keep the sword hidden. The visible portion of a human fleet suddenly accelerated toward the Corvin formation, appearing to charge directly into the teeth of their overwhelming firepower. To the Corvins, this looked like the desperate last stand of a cornered animal, exactly what they had expected from a primitive Deathworld species. The bioships responded predictably, tightening their formation to concentrate fire on the approaching human vessels. Their organic weapon systems began charging, preparing to eliminate this foolish frontal assault with overwhelming firepower. That was when the asteroids began to explode, not with the random destruction of natural impacts, but with precisely timed detonations that created focused debris fields traveling at tremendous velocity directly into the Corvin formation. What had appeared to be natural space rocks revealed themselves to be human-engineered kinetic weapons, turning the entire asteroid belt into a massive shotgun aimed at the heart of the enemy fleet. Direct hits on 17 Corvin vessels, reported the tactical officer. Their formation is disrupted, and they're taking significant damage. But Vasquez wasn't finished. The real purpose of the asteroid bombardment wasn't to destroy the enemy, but to force them into a tighter defensive formation where human ships could get close enough to demonstrate their true advantage. All ships execute Matador 2, close to knife fighting range, and show them what Deathworlders do best. The human vessels, instead of maintaining safe firing distances like civilized species, deliberately close to within a few hundred meters of the damaged Corvin bioships. At this range, the aliens' superior technology and firepower were partially neutralized, while human advantages in close-quarters maneuvering and adaptive tactics became decisive. Commander Sarah Kim aboard the UES Defiance found herself in a point-blank duel with a Corvin bioship 3 times her vessel's size. Instead of trying to outgun the enemy, she used her ship's superior maneuverability to stay within its weapon arcs, targeting specific biological systems that her human crew had identified as vulnerabilities. Target their neural clusters, she ordered her weapons officer. Those bioluminescent patches along their hull aren't decoration, they're nerve centers. Sever enough of them, and the whole ship becomes paralyzed. The tactic worked. Human weapons, guided by human insights into biological warfare, began systematically dismantling the Corvin bioships by attacking their organic nervous systems rather than trying to breach their armored hulls. It was an approach that no other galactic species had considered, because no other species had spent millions of years learning to kill living creatures for survival. Commander Vasquez, came an excited report from across the fleet. The Corvins are attempting to withdraw. They're breaking off engagement and trying to reach minimum safe distance for hyperspace jump. Negative, Vasquez replied coldly. Matador 3, all units. We didn't invite them here to let them leave with intelligence about our capabilities. The final phase of Operation Matador revealed why human military doctrine had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them. Instead of allowing a tactical withdrawal, the human fleet pursued the retreating Corvin ships with relentless determination, harrying them through the asteroid field and preventing them from reaching safe hyperspace jump coordinates. Dr. Yilrun, observing the battle from her position aboard the Retribution, watched in amazement as human crews demonstrated tactical flexibility that bordered on the supernatural. Every time the Corvins adapted to one human tactic, the humans immediately shifted to another approach, never allowing their enemies to establish any kind of tactical rhythm. This is remarkable, she transmitted to the Galactic Council observers. They're not just fighting this battle, they're fighting every possible variation of this battle simultaneously. Their tactical doctrine assumes that every plan will fail and prepares multiple contingencies. The battle lasted 4 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Corvin probe force. Not a single bioship escaped to report to the main fleet. But, more importantly, the engagement had demonstrated something that changed the course of the entire galactic war. Admiral Chun, Vasquez reported as her fleet regrouped among the debris of their enemies. We've confirmed something important. The Corvins aren't just biologically engineered weapons, they're specialized tools. Each ship type is designed for specific tactical situations, which makes them predictable. Explain, Chen requested. They're perfect for conquering civilized enemies who fight according to established doctrines. But they're vulnerable to opponents who fight like animals, because their biological programming doesn't include responses to truly chaotic tactics. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just won a battle. They had identified the fundamental weakness in an enemy that had seemed invincible. The Corvins were evolutionarily perfect for defeating rational, civilized opponents, but they had never encountered an enemy that combined intelligence with predatory instincts. Dr. Yilrin, Admiral Chun addressed the alien observer. Please transmit the following message to the Galactic Council. The Deathworlders have analyzed the enemy and identified exploitable weaknesses. We recommend immediate implementation of human tactical doctrine across all allied forces. As news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy, species that had been preparing for extinction began to feel something they had almost forgotten: hope. The humans had proven that the Corvins could be defeated, but, more importantly, they had shown other species how to think like predators rather than civilized beings. The Corvin Overmind, sensing the loss of its probe force, began recalculating its assessment of the threat these humans represented. For the first time since emerging from the void between galaxies, it felt something approaching respect for an enemy. These Deathworlders fought not with superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but with a kind of adaptive intelligence that the Overmind found both fascinating and dangerous. Analysis, it commanded its subordinates. The humans demonstrate tactical unpredictability beyond our modeling parameters, reported the intelligence specialist. They appear to treat combat as an evolutionary pressure rather than a formal engagement. Recommendation: immediate commitment of the main fleet. These Deathworlders represent an existential threat to our expansion. They must be eliminated before they can share their tactical innovations with other species. The Overmind considered this recommendation. The humans had proven themselves worthy opponents, but they were still a single species on a single world. The main Corvin fleet represented the accumulated military power of an entire extragalactic civilization. Surely even the most dangerous Deathworlders could not stand against such overwhelming force. Agreed, the Overmind decided. Plot course for Earth. We will finish this threat before it can spread. As the massive Corvin armada began its final approach toward the Sol system, humanity prepared for the ultimate test. They had proven that they could defeat Corvin forces, but could they survive the full attention of an enemy that had conquered dozens of star systems? The galaxy was about to find out if Earth's warriors were truly as dangerous as their reputation suggested, or if they would join the long list of civilizations that had fallen before the endless hunger of the Corvin horde. But one thing had already changed forever. The concept of impossible odds would never look the same to any species that had watched the Deathworlders turn their first space battle into a masterclass in predatory tactics. The final confrontation was coming, and both sides knew that only one species would survive to claim the stars.